Welcome back. So I didn't get the Nashville bumper sticker yet. They don't play for a while, so I just put extra logos at the top for Nashville. This is the one that I really like, and these are the other two. So hey, there you go. All right, so it's Carolina and it's Nashville, and this is a very interesting matchup. I want to go through the season series first because there was a big shift. Now there's a break between that last game that was played now 3 days ago and the start of the series, which I think has to benefit Carolina. So to start things off, January 16th, Carolina goes into Nashville and wins 4-3. On March 2nd, they go into Nashville again. They win 4-2. So Carolina up 2-0 in that series. March 9th, in Carolina, in overtime, Carolina wins 3-2. Then March 11th, at home, Carolina wins 5-1. April 15th, Carolina, at home, they win 4-1. And then Carolina at home on April 17th, they won 3-1 over Nashville. Nashville hasn't won in Carolina all season. So to finish out the season, Nashville looking to clinch themselves a playoff spot, come out with motivation on May 8th, and they win 3-1 over Carolina. And on May 10th, 3 days ago, as of when I'm recording this, Nashville wins 5-0. 5. And they looked really good winning those games 8-1, and it was an emotional win for Pekka Rinne, and he did a little lap like maybe it's his last regular season game in Nashville. And you had your feel-good moment if you're a Preds fan heading into the postseason. So does that feel-good moment go anywhere? Well, for Carolina, it really is a matter of, do they get all their guns going at the same time? And I didn't even get them all on the board. Nate Schuss isn't on the board. If you're a Canes fan, you know how good Nate Schuss is. If you've watched the Carolina Hurricanes this year, you know how good Nate Schuss is. He's not on the board. That's how good this team is, how deep they are. So Sebastian Aho leads them in scoring in 56 games, 24 goals, 33 assists, 57 points. Vinny Trocheck, absolutely, in his first full season in Carolina, it was a perfect match. 47 games, 17 goals, 26 assists, 43 points. And Svechnikov. Andrei Svechnikov, 55 games, 15 goals, 27 assists, 42 points. And the scary thing with Svechnikov is, you look at these totals and you go, he could do better. He could probably be a 30-goal scorer. And that's accurate. Svechnikov absolutely could be a 30-goal scorer in the NHL and likely will be. And if he ever starts shooting the puck as much as we think he should, maybe 40, maybe 50. But again, we'll see what happens. Over on the Nashville side, it's interesting because their top scorer was Roman Josi. 48 games played, 8 goals, 25 assists, 33 points. And it shows you've got a dynamic offense here, and you've got Nashville over here who will muck and grind their way, and they have different unsung heroes every night. Forsberg, 39 games played, 12 goals, 20 assists, 32 points. Missed a lot of games this year. Yarncroke, 49 games, 13 goals, 15 assists for 28 points. So all three of your leading scorers here for Nashville didn't play the full 56 games. And on the Carolina side, it feels like they were a little bit more healthy throughout the season. So, goals for and against, Carolina, 175 goals scored, 134 allowed. Their power play numbers, absolutely fantastic, 25.6%. Nashville needs to stay out of the box. 85.2% penalty kill for Carolina as well. If this series comes down to special teams, Carolina's the better team. But on the Nashville front, 151 goals scored, 154 goals against. So despite winning their last two games by a combined score of 8-1, they still didn't score as many goals as they'd allowed. So people will tell you that a team that doesn't have a good goal differential that way normally doesn't last very long in the playoffs. But Nashville's defied expectations as recently as 4 years ago. 17.6% on the power play, that is not good enough. Penalty kill, 75.4%, also not good enough. Special teams are a problem. Again, they need to stay out of the box. They need to keep this series nice and clean and play their game. Goaltending, I think the edge goes to Carolina because they do have three legit goaltenders. Nedeljkovic, 15-5-3, 932 save percentage, 1.9 goals against. So Mrazek gets hurt, and Nedeljkovic just goes right in and steals that number one spot. But Reimer's record is almost identical to his. 15-5-2, 906 save percentage, 2.66 goals against. So Reimer's numbers are nowhere near as good, but Carolina just scores more when he's in net. That appears to be the case anyways. Mrazek, 6-2-3, 923 save percentage, 2.06 goals against average. So yeah, the goaltending is really good no matter which of the three you go with. And in the offseason, it'll be interesting to see what Carolina does, because you could make an argument for jettisoning either Reimer or Mrazek and keeping Nedeljkovic. You have to think Nedeljkovic isn't going anywhere. That would just be crazy. He's got some consideration for the Calder. So Nedeljkovic is the guy. He's likely the starter next year. Whereas on the Nashville side, you've got their starter on his way out in Rinne. Saros has become the starter now. 21-11-1, 927 save percentage, 2.28 goals against average. Saros really came into his own after a relatively slow start. Rinne, 10-12-1, 907 save percentage, 2.84 goals against. Rinne's now had back-to-back seasons where his numbers aren't where he would like them to be. So I understand if this is the end of it. And Kaskisuo, who didn't play a lot, he didn't allow a goal. So, much like Legace, who I covered in a previous series we were looking at, Kaskisuo doesn't see what the big deal is. I didn't allow a goal. Why are you guys allowing goals? Easy peasy. So, when we look at these teams, I would say goaltending, I would give to Carolina. Depth of scoring, I would give to Carolina. Defense core, Carolina. So what does Nashville have? They have momentum, and that crowd in Nashville might very well be helpful, and yet Carolina has their crowd as well. This is going to be a matchup between two fan bases that can be pretty boisterous at times. So the wild cards on the Carolina side. Niederreiter, amazing season, maybe a career year for him. Absolutely just sniper out there, right? Hamilton, really great game streak for him. And his contract's up this summer. So if he has a really good playoff, right? Teravainen, he was out for a ton of time. So we talked about how Nashville had a lot of guys that were out. Teravainen missed a ton of time. When he came back, you could see the difference he made to Carolina's attack. And Hakanpää, putting Hakanpää on there as a wild card because he came over from Anaheim, where I thought he was having a good year. The numbers didn't back that up. I kept saying he's having a good year. I don't know what's going on. And he gets to Carolina and his numbers got better. So, he could make a big difference on a blue line that's already really deep with guys like Slavin, Pesce, not on the board. And then you've also got to watch for Jordan Staal. You got to watch for Eric Staal in a series I'm going to talk about on Saturday or Friday night. Eric Stahl's not in this series. Sadly, didn't go back to Carolina. And I say that as no offense to Montreal fans, but it would have been nice to see him in a Carolina jersey for the playoffs. But yeah, Jordan Staal had an amazing season. Maybe his best season as well. So this shortened season seemed to help some of these guys, and Stahl's one of them. And of course, in 2020, Carolina lost to Boston. They don't have to worry about Boston this year unless they get to the Final Four. And I think they would be quite happy about that. But Carolina this year really now has become, I think, one of the favorites to win the Cup. So they have an amount of pressure on them. Nashville doesn't. On the Nashville side, the wild cards to me, Mikael Granlund. Granlund had an up and down season as well. A lot of the players in Nashville did. It just felt like at the right time it all came together. This team was off to a miserable start to the season. There was all this talk about, Ekholm's going to go. They're going to have to, sell guys off, and David Poyle's job might be up for grabs. I don't think Poyle's got anything to worry about now unless he decides to retire. Luke Cunnin, who was prominent in the last couple of games there. We'll see how he does. And the two-headed monster, contract-wise, for Nashville, Duchesne and Johansson. Miserable seasons for them through injury, through cold streaks, but both of them heated up against Carolina at the end of the year, and we'll see whether or not that carries over. Again, with the amount of time in between their last game and their next game, that should rule out momentum, and the fact that it's in Carolina now rather than in Nashville. If Nashville had home ice in this, I might be wearing a Nashville jersey, but Carolina has home ice, and there's a lot of reasons to like Carolina in this. But also, while we're talking about Duchesne and Johansson and how that's the two-headed beast, that if they can get it going, that could turn the tide in favor of Nashville. At least it helps. Rocco Grimaldi. Grimaldi is capable of going on goal-scoring binges, and he's a very useful, smaller player who can just have a good 5 minutes in a game. And you're like, well, he had a pretty good 5 minutes. He had 2 goals and an assist during that 5 minutes. You don't say. So we'll see whether or not Carolina can overcome these waves. Again, if you're Nashville, all you want to do, go into Carolina, win one of the first 2 games, and then you're bringing it home for the next 2. And then you're hoping that home crowd and that momentum work in your favor. If you're Carolina, home ice, get those first 2, get everybody and their bunch of jerks t-shirts up out of their seats and get it going, get the party started all over again for Carolina. In 2020 for Nashville, of course, they lost to Arizona in the play-in round. There should be some feeling of last year we blew it against Arizona. We have to be better this year. So there should be something driving Nashville to a better performance in the 2021 playoffs than what we saw in the play-in round in 2020. So overall in this series, I'm taking Carolina. I admit I'm taking Carolina, but there are reasons to look at Nashville and say they could very well pull this off. But we'll see what happens. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. And hey, thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.